Okay, so let's see. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got about 5 pages of information from this episode. So I just gotta remember that this episode was called "Knock Knock Knockin' on Hooty's Door." How is everyone doing today, guys? My name's D Codes, and did we get well, I mean, I guess basically the big question is, how do you take about 4 episodes worth of content and just smash it into one? Knock knock knocking on Hooty's door. Oh man, this episode is crazy. So yeah, this is episode 8 of season 2 for the Owls, or episode 27 of the series, Knock Knock Knocking on Hooty's Door. And man, does that sound like the start of a jingle. And if anyone does make a jingle out of it, kudos to you. But so I know already, like, I've already been looking around on the internet, and like so many people were making jokes of how, like, oh, we thought this would just be another filler episode. And for me, I was, in my mind, I mean, really? I didn't think at all we were going to get a filler episode up to this point, especially with the past 7 episodes. Like, really, you think, especially like keeping up appearances, like, oh, maybe that'll be a nice little filler episode. Wasn't really. And this episode, I was like, okay, it's called Knock 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 on Hooty's Door. We could still get something out of that, and we did. And man, do we get so much in this episode in 22, 23 minutes. That's impressive. So I just want to say, Dana and crew, great job making all of this seem natural. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I really had fun with this episode, mainly because, yeah, we get so much information in terms of progression and lore and relationships. Oh man, this is amazing. So yeah, so let's get into this episode. So obviously, based off the title of this episode, the focus is kind of on Hooty, as he is feeling a little down on himself because he hasn't really gone on any adventures since Echoes of the Past. And obviously Luz, King, and Ida, they've done tons of stuff without Hooty, so he's kind of feeling left out. But after he got a letter from Lilith, she said in her letter that he's the Owl House, so he does have a sense of purpose. He cares for them. He literally is the thing that they're living in. So he does have an importance to them, and that he should try to help them. And so that's exactly what Hooty does. We get that classic little trope of like, oh, all my friends have problems with something, so I'm gonna try and I'll fix it. And we know how it goes, tries to help them, doesn't really work. Then something terrible happens, and all of them come together, realize their mistakes, overcome their problems somehow. So again, much like the series, this entire season so far, you know what about half the things you're gonna get, but you don't know the other half. And I tried to guess what the other half was gonna be, and I'd say I got half of that right. And so what I mean by half is, well, pretty much that half. I got half of what I was predicting King, Ida, and Luz were gonna have problems with. Kind of got right. So for King, it was, so let's start with obviously the order that they go in. So the first problem that Hooty tries to fix is King's problem. And for King, I thought going in, oh, it's gonna be, more about his dad, being a demon and all that, what kind of, like, demon he is. And technically speaking, that is what happens, but it's not how... It's not looked at, it's not focused from that angle. It's actually focused on the fact that King is now going through demon puberty. Like, throughout this episode, his voice cracks, and it actually is kind of funny, because it's Alex Hirsch, so he's just having probably the ball in the booth doing this. It's really funny to hear him, and especially when there's scenes with him and, like, when it's just Hooty and King, it's basically just Alex Hirsch talking to himself. It's still really funny. And for Hooty, obviously, he wants to help King figure out what kind of demon he is, and so what he does is he tries to test him to see which of the 3 B's of a demon he is. So this is our first little dump of information in terms of Boiling Isle lore, or Demon Realm lore, or just Owl House lore. I should just say Owl House lore, but in the Owl House, there are 3 different types of demons. There's bugs, there are bipeds, and then there are beasts. Bugs, pretty straightforward. Beasts, pretty straightforward. Bipeds are pretty much all those creative-looking creatures we've seen throughout the show, like Tiny Nose, for example, or in other words, Dana Terrace. She's in this episode, and her type of demons are... They don't look human, but they can still do magic. And as we see in this episode, Tiny Nose can do some magic. I wonder if that's like Dana secretly wanting to just obliterate Disney. Like, just replace King with a mouse. You got something there. But yeah, so Hooty tries to test King to see which of the 3 B's he is. He first tries him with bugs. Actually, Hooty even said that he is one. He's a demon. Oh, he's a bug demon, which wasn't entirely sure at first, but then he mentioned, like, worm, so it's like, at least we can call him a worm demon now, I guess? I mean, I'm probably just gonna still call him Hooty, or, but... Yeah, so he tries to help King with this, and so he tries to see if he's a bug first, but that goes horribly wrong, in fact. Don't you talk about my mother! Hooty really is very unhinged in this episode, and it kind of terrified me, but it also... He does some stuff in this episode, too, that made me want to... We'll get to it. So, yeah, so Hooty, so King obviously isn't a bug demon. After his, duel with, Tiny Nose, he figures out that he's not a biped demon, and in order to figure out if he's a beast demon or not, which I kind of thought they would land at, that doesn't work either. They get a blood sample, and the size of that needle was very disturbing, but... They get a blood sample, and turns out that King is none of the 3 demons, but Hooty tries to cheer him up by saying, well, you're your own demon, you don't have to figure out which one you are, but King's like, but that's exactly the point, I want to figure out which one I am so I can understand, so I can know what I'll be, what my dad is gonna be like. So obviously King isn't really focused on what type of demon he is, or just who he is himself, to, like, everyone else, but he wants to figure out, obviously, like, what his kind is. He wants to figure that out. He's like, what if, because he says it himself, what if I'm the last one? What if I live my entire life and not know anything about my kind? He's got a good point, I mean, wanting the information to that. And obviously, him getting angry at Hooty gets upset, and King then... He gets mad about the fact that his father left him, and that's what he says. He's like, I'm not mad at you, Hooty, I'm just mad at the fact that, he's like, my dad, maybe he's out there, maybe he is out there, or he's like, but he left me alone, and, like, when he screams that, he lets out this, like, sound wave, or screech, which is pretty interesting. interesting in my mind. I was like, I definitely didn't see that coming, and I don't think anyone saw that coming in terms of King's powers. Like, we figured as this series went on, and as we got a lot of information about King, especially after Echoes of the Past, that he was going to get something in terms of like growth. And so this is probably his first step, is him getting this kind of like a screech. It kind of reminded me of like a black canary from DC. When she screeches, it causes these sound waves that can shatter glass, or in King's case, he can actually destroy parts of a tower, which was pretty cool to see. But again, we'll get to that later in this video. But yeah, so King, really cool idea for King in my mind, but obviously for Hooty, he thinks he just screwed up, so he cries, and then he goes back down, and he figured, okay, well, I failed that, maybe I can figure out Ida or Luz. And so he goes to Ida next, who is a little unhinged in this episode in my mind. She's she really looks psychotic. I did like the way that she had the pinchers on her eyelids just so she can keep her eyes open. It was very terrifying, but it was somewhat understandable, because Ida has, especially after what happened in the last episode, she's been very frantic on trying to figure out what Emperor Bellos is planning, and trying to figure out how to beat her curse so she can get her powers back, because obviously if she wants to go toe-to-toe with Bellos and get her love back, she's gonna need all the magic she can get. So she's trying to figure that out, but Hooty is a little concerned for Ida, because he knows that if Ida is awake too long, gets stressed down, she'll turn into the owl beast. So he tries to put her to sleep, and so he gives her these cookies that have like a little knockout powder in it. But unfortunately, Ida tells Hooty that he gave her a kind of powder that puts her out, but it also amplifies the drains that she has. So in other words, she's gonna be tripping. And that was a very creative thing that they did, because obviously, since it's a dream, you can pretty much go all out with the animation, and man, do they do in this. And I love this segment that they have. It just, especially near the end, like you get the changing colors, you get the nice silhouettes of Ida and the owl beast, and it's a really cool segment. But pretty much the whole segment is Ida coming to terms with the owl beast, and the way they go through it is they start with, well, when Ida was a kid, when she was a kid with this curse, and before she ran away. And I'm guessing it's right before the healing coven showed up, because we had this moment with Ida, she's at dinner with her family, her dad's there, and she's just the look on Ida's face when she sees her dad, like she runs up to him and hugs him, and she's just practically in tears. Like she said, I missed you so much, I haven't seen you in forever. And it's like, it's such a touching moment, but all of a sudden it's ruined when the owl beast shows up. Like, I like how they do it in this, where it's not like Ida turns into the owl beast, it's just Ida watching the owl beast come out of nowhere and start attacking. And in this case, it attacks her father. And Ida, she screams, no, I won't let you ruin this again. She grabs the owl beast and throws it outside and locks the door, but damage is already done. Her father's been hurt. So I kind of like that little drop there, saying well, yeah, because if Ida was living with her family while she had this curse, there probably was an incident like this. And so based off of what happened here, my assumption is Ida hasn't seen her father since that incident. Like, she's seen her mother annually, because her mother always comes by to say, I will cure your curse this year and all that. But obviously for Ida, for Ida's dad, she hasn't seen him in a long time. And I wonder if we're gonna get an episode like that. I wonder if Ida is actually gonna finally see her father again, and we're gonna get a touching moment between the two. Who knows? But so after that memory, we go to a touching one with Rain. I'll admit, I didn't think Rain would show back up in this episode, but they did, and it answered a question that I had from the last episode, and that being, what happened between Rain and Ida? And that's exactly what we get in this one. We get Ida reliving the memory of Rain breaking up with her, and it's like, and it's in that same spot where Rain and Ida were talking about, their fear, dealing with fear from when they're younger. They're playing the Rap City there, and it's just like, oh my god, it was such a heartbreaking scene because Rain is there and they're concerned about Ida, and Ida is trying to deny it, saying, no, I'm fine, I'm totally fine, but Rain's like, I know you're lying, you gotta stop, you keep doing this, why do you keep lying to me? And so, obviously, this is the point of the episode, especially for Ida, where I'm like, it's not always the curse in my mind that is keeping Ida, from being what she wants to be, because even Ida says it here. She's like, no, don't push her away, tell her what's wrong, tell her everything. It's like, that's the thing, that's kind of like the thing when it comes to this nice little commentary on, well, a lot of things in life, depression, anxiety, just any problems that one has. If they try to just hide it from everyone, kind of to keep it locked up and push everyone away, saying, no, I'm fine, it's okay, it's like, you don't have to worry about me. It's like, you try to do that, and you'll end up pushing everyone away because they know there's something's wrong with you, and the fact that you don't want to open up to them is gonna either lead to them being more persistent or lead to them going. So for Ida here, it pushed Rain away. And just the fact that it was this curse that pushed Rain away from Ida was very, very tragic. Because we know from Ida's Requiem, that's kind of one of the things that brought them back together for the time being. And so, yeah, that was heartwarming. But then we continue with the segment with Ida going toe-to-toe with the Owl Beast, and they have this fight, but then all of a sudden, or it's a very short fight, like, Ida just headbutts it, and then they become one, so Ida turns into the Owl Beast, and then we get this interesting looking figure that I think in the credits they called the Collector, so that was interesting. Yeah, but they are just laughing, they're just saying, like, Ida's time is up, there's nowhere to run, like, they captured her, but Ida's able to escape and fly off, but then all of a sudden her wings start burning up, so she falls, crashes into the sea, and then I love this shot, where you just have the Owl Beast Ida falling into the sea, and the second she hits the water, it turns into the scroll of the Owl Beast, and all the color goes away, it's black and white, and the only color that's there is red, the red glow from the scroll, and then eventually just Ida and the Owl Beast with this red rope that's tied around each of their ankles, obviously stating that they're stuck with each other and they gotta deal with it, which is exactly what Ida puts together, stating that we've been, it's been, we can't keep doing this, we gotta realize that we're a part of each other, we can't be fighting over and over again, because if we keep doing it, it'll never end. So they call a truce, which I really like. I was hoping that would be one of the things that would happen with Ida and her curse, was that she would come to terms with this Owl Beast, and they would at least compromise, or at least be like, all right, we're cool, like, because it's kind of like the Hulk, it's like Incredible Hulk, Bruce Banner and the Hulk, they've always been battling each other, and so maybe, yeah, once in a while, they can just call a truce. So in this case, Ida calls a truce with the Owl Beast, and man, oh man, does this, when she wakes up from her dream, she sees that she becomes what she calls a harpy owl, a harpy lady, and I'll just say, she looks freaking awesome. Like, I love the design, I love the way she's like a partially turned beast, but it's more Ida. It's not like an owl beast with Ida's face. It's like Ida, but now she has wings. She has these she has the owl. She has the talons. She has this cool looking look on the eyes, it's so incredible to look at. But unfortunately for Hooty, he thought he just made the whole thing worse, and so he gets upset again and takes off. But Ida tries to stop him, saying, "No, you actually kind of in a way helped me." And it's like, yeah, that would have been, yeah. But Hooty, obviously thinking he just made it worse, took off. So that's the end of that segment. And the final segment is one that I am very mixed about. And I say I'm very mixed about it because it's not the outcome and the characters that are in this segment that I had a problem with. It's just what Hooty thought would be a good idea. So this segment is Luz, where she obviously is she's trying to figure out what to do with the Echo Mouse, but two, she's worried about asking Amity out. And that was the thing that caught me off guard. I thought she would be, conflicted about Amity's, being in love with Amity, like liking Amity, because again, it's like, as Hooty stated too, like Luz is torn between the fact that she wants to get home, but now she has this crush on Amity. I thought that would be the segment where, Amity and Luz would just talk about stuff, like being like, well, maybe, but no, it's like Luz wanting to ask Amity out on a date, which makes sense because we know up to this point, they both know they like each other. So I guess the next logical step is to ask the other out on a date and see what happens. So Luz is very terrified about it because, again, being from the human world, she isn't sure if any of the things she will do will work. She thinks that if she screws up, then Amity won't like her anymore, and obviously that is a very terrifying thing to think of. But Hooty, being Hooty, he makes sure that Luz and Amity see each other face to face. And so what does he do? He lures Luz into the basement and reveals that he kidnapped Amity. Like, Amity's in this owl pellet, and she breaks out, but then she's like, what the heck is happening? And it's like, oh, okay, so Hooty's gonna lock him in the basement and they're gonna be forced to talk or something. But then no, it gets even worse. He opens up a trapdoor and Amity and Luz, they go down in it, and they find out that this trapdoor is a tunnel of love. I personally knew from just the look of it that this whole thing was gonna be super creepy, super cringy, and it was just Luz and Amity in this swan Hooty boat going through this tunnel of love that really was just super creepy. I was super creeped out about this. I felt like something out of the Dark Knight Returns, that whole segment where Joker and Batman are battling in the tunnel of love. I was just getting vibes out of that for some odd reason. But yeah, so Hooty obviously is trying to get Luz to confess her feelings to Amity and ask her out on a date, but Luz, in complete panic mode, tries to destroy everything, tries to keep Amity's eyes away from all the stuff that says, like, this one was cool. This is like, you get this little scroll that says, it's like literally just the letters, you are a QT. It's like, that was pretty cute, but, I guess it's better than saying cotton candy haired goddess. that was another moment where I couldn't stop laughing at the scene because, it's just Luz being like, looking at the Echo Mouse being like, yeah, if you're not going to talk to me about Philip Woodbane, can you tell me how to ask out a cotton candy haired goddess? It's like, that was such a cool line. I really hope. I mean, I don't know if that'll work in terms of a nickname for Amity, but who knows? But yeah, so Amity and Luz, again, back in the tunnel of love, she just pretty much destroys everything. And Amity obviously sees it, and she gets embarrassed, at first, she's kind of flattered, but then she sees Luz destroying everything and realizes, oh no, wait, Luz doesn't want this. She doesn't want to be here. She is embarrassed, and so she feels hurt by it. But, it's just that little misunderstanding moment, like Amity says, I'll let myself out. And then, Luz is like, oh, no, this wasn't me. This was Hooty's idea. It was this Hooty's stupid idea. And then Amity's like, yeah, it was kind of stupid, you know. Then she's like, you know, you and me dating, it's like, that's kind of stupid. So it's like, oh, you get that little misunderstanding, but Hooty, of course, you know, because this is like strike three, you're out, Hooty absolutely goes nuts, and he thinks that he can't help anyone, and he starts freaking out, which causes the house to start shaking, which leads to King start dangling on top of the tower that Hooty left him at. And Hooty tries to run away, and I think he tried to run away. Like, he gets out of the house, but starts moving around like a worm, which I guess because, like you said, he's a worm demon. So yeah, so he tries to run away, but Ida, King, Amity, and Luz, you know, they get together and they like try to calm Hooty down. Like, as I said before, King says, you know, he's got a new power, so he's fine. Ida says she learned to, she said that Hooty helped her, but of course Hooty's like, but I haven't helped Luz. And of course it's like Luz and Amity are right there, and so Ida's like, what did Hooty try to help you with? And so Luz, you know, they go on, like, Luz whispers to Ida, like, the situation, you know, like, she was trying to ask Amity out. And I love this little scene with Ida and Luz. Like, you know, Ida's just like Luz is like, I want to ask her out. And then Ida just gets that look of surprise on her face, like, oh. And then she's like, well, do ya? And, like, Luz nods, and then Ida's just like, then do it. It's like, I love that. I love that little, it's very quick, but it's just, it shows that full support and love that Ida has for Luz. It's like, oh, you want to ask her out, which means you like her, so that means, yeah, go ahead, do it. Why not? It's like, not to mention, she knows what it's like to be in love, so makes sense. But obviously, you can't really do that with Hooty crying right next to you. So Ida and King, they grab Hooty and they take him up into the sky. You get this nice, really cool moment and a romantic, cute moment with Luz and Amity. You know, they're being super awkward, but it is totally understandable between the two. And Luz and Amity are able to confess, I guess. Like, Luz is like, I don't know what the future is gonna hold, but I want you to be there with me. And so Luz then finally gets the courage to ask Amity out, or, well, it was a cute little scene.
Do you want to go out with me? No, I was so ready. I'm sorry, you can say it. Okay. Amity Blight, do you want to go out with me? Yes! Okay! Why is this still so scary?
I don't know. Dang, Hooty, you really are something.
It's just, it's like Dana was just like, up to this point, he's like, oh, you think all this information, you think all these episodes have too much information and too many things going on, but it still feels great. Wait until you see this. Oh my god. I'll say this. It's a great episode. I personally wouldn't have it as one of my favorites, mainly because it's the fact that it feels like there are way too many things going on. Like I said before, this feels like 4 episodes worth of content and info and progression shoved into one. Like, you can totally see an episode with Amity and Luz just going through this stuff. I mean, I imagine a lot of people would love to see an episode of just the two and nothing else. Then you get an episode with Ida and the Owl Beast, you know, them dealing with stuff. That would be a pretty cool episode. You get an episode with King dealing with this stuff and his past and more about that. And then you're gonna just get an episode of Hooty being, well, Hooty. So, but again, really liked how all of this came together. It's the classic, you know, multiple problems, trying to fix them all trope, but here it makes sense, you know, because Hooty, up to this point, felt a little down about himself, and makes sense. He's only been on one adventure in this second season, and technically speaking, he hasn't really been on any other adventures outside of that, other than, like, Hooty's Moving Hassle. It's pretty much the only other adventure he's been on. And even then, he wasn't didn't really be a part of that. He was like controlled. So I'm glad we got a Hooty episode in my mind, but I also liked how we got all this information, we got all this lore dump, we got all this for the sake of the series, because again, we know that season 2, once that's done, we only have 3 44-minute specials in season 3, so and also Dana with Amity and Luz want to knock that out as fast as we can, and so for Lumity to officially be a thing now, I guess, I mean, well, they're dating now, so, well, actually, they technically haven't got, no, I'm just gonna say it, Lumity's a thing. It's here, Lumity's here to stay, and we're gonna see more of it next week with Eclipse Lake. Hopefully. Definitely. What am I saying? Definitely. But yeah, so Hooty, after resolving all these problems, is all the while when he was writing a letter to Lilith, and he mentions how, like, like, after all that was resolved, Ida learned to be one with the Owl Beast. King is learning about his new power. Amy and Luz. I love Hooty being like, Luz is new GF. I'm like, okay. But yeah, that's cute. That's cute. So Luz and Amity Amity was able to help Luz with the Echo Mouse, so we're getting some information there too. We don't hear any of it, but we see it, and it's like, oh my god, that's a lot of information. And we also saw a staff that looked kind of like a spider, which was interesting. I wonder if that was Philip's. It probably was Philip's staff. But if it wasn't, then interesting. But this whole episode ends with Hooty, finishing up his letter to Lilith, and also mentioning how he promised that he would never help anyone again. I love how that's always the thing. It's like, after all of it, it's like, I want you to promise something. Never do that again, please. So yeah, Hooty does that here. He puts the letter in the mailbox, and then he gets a visitor from, I'm guessing, King's dad. I mean, we don't really know who it is yet. We just know it looks like King. It's a bigger version of King. The only difference is this one's voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson, which I really got a laugh out of it. And, he comes in and he's like, he has a letter and he says, make sure this gets to King Clawthorne. And so Hooty, at first, it seems like Hooty's shocked to see the letter, but then it's really just the fact that there's a bug on the letter, and then he...
Oh my gosh, a bug! Ah! Whoopsie! Hope that was junk mail!
It's like, it's amazing how we got so much information, and then Hooty's just like, ooh, we still need a mystery. Because even Hooty's like, no more mysteries, and then he eats that letter, so it's like, except that one. Oh, this is a great episode. As I keep saying, and I'm pretty sure as everyone else is saying, and I'm pretty sure as Dana and the crew is saying, every single episode of this season is just getting better and better and better. Man, this is second season really... I mean, the first season, I really enjoyed the first season, but just these 8 episodes knock that first season out. Like, oh my goodness, it knocks that first season out. Like, there's a lot of good episodes in season 1, but it's like the consistency of how great these episodes are is amazing, and I love it. And I'm so excited to see where we go from here, because we have 2 episodes left before they go on their little hiatus. And I'm guessing we're not going to get anything until after Amphibia Season 3 goes through their first half. I'm excited for Season 3. And I know the rest of you guys are as well. And... alright, is there anything else that we need to talk about here? Nope, and that's about it. So, yeah. Yeah, is this episode crazy, so... that's all I got. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked it, leave a like. If you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. And if you want to subscribe. You don't have to. I'm just saying. thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next video.